But often what we've done with that term, rock bottom, is we have actually made it mean something fucking drastically horrible. Like you wake up under a bridge, downtown somewhere, covered in your own piss and shit and vomit, and you've burnt every, quote, relationship bridge in your life. That has a bit of power, because for a lot of guys, we have this idea that rock bottom is something fucking wildly terrible like that. You're listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. I'm your host, Mike Campbell, and the aim of this podcast is pretty simple: to support you in building rock-solid foundations, legendary integrity, and kick-ass relationships, with plenty of stories, a load of lessons, and a solid dose of some loving straight talk. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Legends podcast. This is me, your host, Mike Campbell. If you're watching, here's my face. If you're listening, obviously, this is my voice. And today I'm bringing you a solo episode. Today I'm going to talk about one thing that I see all the fucking time. And I feel in my mind that if I had written that down, I would have put a full stop after each word. All the fucking time. And that is the fact. That is my observation and broad experience in working with men, that for some fucking reason, which we're going to explore, men need to reach some sort of rock bottom in order to do something, in order to make a change. Your partner needs to say, I'm leaving, or I'm going to leave you before you get your fucking act together and do something about it. Something really bad needs to happen in our life before we actually go about doing something about it. Now, this term rock bottom also just needs a little bit of exploration, because it's been, a popular idea, I suppose. Got to hit rock bottom. He's hit rock bottom. But often what we've done with that term is we have actually made it mean something fucking drastically horrible. Like you wake up under a bridge, downtown somewhere, covered in your own piss and shit and vomit, and you've burnt every, quote, relationship bridge in your life, and maybe for some guys it is that. And that has a bit of power, because for a lot of guys, we have this idea that rock bottom is something fucking wildly terrible like that. And so what we're going to get into and explore is, well, if that's not happening for me, then things aren't that bad. Until they get to some specific point, which is your version of a rock bottom. It could be, way too much fucking drinking, way too much of a vice, gaming, gambling, porn, womanizing, work, exercise, whatever you use to distract and numb yourself from your experience and from facing your shit. Might get to a point where, or something happens, as I said, it's the relationship, it's a family member, it's something that makes us go, holy shit, this is a bad enough spot that something needs to happen. So here's what's going on prior to that. There's always opportunity for growth, and there's always pain and discomfort and something that we don't want to experience, that's unpleasant, that is not pleasurable. And we have the opportunity at all times to do something about it. But we won't. Change is hard. Or I'll rephrase that. Change can be very hard. And what we will tend to do is that we will make change harder than it probably is going to be. We will build up what change requires of us, what it's going to ask of us, what it's going to mean, to be something way bigger than it is. We will create this giant fucking mountain. And then we have this idea that we need to climb the mountain in one go. I need to be on the other side of what I'm experiencing right now immediately. And you can't do that. So we take a running leap at the mountain. And what happens if you take a running leap in a mountain? Well, you don't fucking climb it in one go. It's a mountain. And so you get further than you would if you took one step, but then you slide back down to the bottom. And so we don't get going. And so what happens is that idea of change becomes this massive idea. And that looks like pain, work, hardness, something that will be hard, enduring something challenging, discomfort. And that becomes bigger and greater, which is to say the idea of that becomes bigger and greater than the pain, the discomfort, the shit that we are experiencing and suffering right now. And so if the pain of what I'm experiencing right now is not greater than the pain that I think change will involve, I won't do it. Those scales just don't balance. I will not do something, and this is what is true for so many guys. So really, listener, please connect into this for yourself. Do you do this? Are you doing this? Are you living in this right now? Have you experienced this in the past? Get down a pen and some paper and write some shit down. The pain I'm experiencing right now is pain. It's discomfort. It's frustrating. It's challenging. It's all this shit that's fucking annoying and all sorts of other things. Slightly annoying. It's discomfort. But I want, and this could be, in our lives, mentally, emotionally, also physically. It could be relationships, but it can be like, I've got that niggle on my back. It's not bad enough because, like going to see the doctor, the physio, maybe they're going to send me to a surgeon. There's going to be financial costs there. So I build those things up and that's too great. That's bigger than the pain I'm experiencing. It's fine. So the pain I'm experiencing, I often justify, rationalize, or suffer through and accept and go, it's not bad enough, especially relative to what I think doing something about it's going to be. Until I get to a point where it's quote rock bottom, it's bad enough. All of a sudden, poof, the pain becomes bigger than what I think doing something about it will involve, will ask of me. So once that scale shifts, I can do something about it. Now, that's not an objective thing. It's very subjective, which means that at all times, you can look at that and change those values yourself. But often you can't do that yourself. Right? If your idea of what change and growth is going to involve is giant, you probably need some different eyes on it. Hey, you know what? It's not actually that. Here's the first step. You climb a mountain, cliche coming, one step after a time. And if you can't see that, if you're blinded by all of your shit and the fear of what you're confronted by at your edge, because that's really what's going on. We're called into adventure. The hero's journey invites us. It's a call to adventure. It is a call to a next step, to take a step into growth, to what's available to us. That feels terrifying. Right? And so, I don't want that. You know what? This pain that I'm experiencing, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. You know what? I can justify this. I can suffer through this. Yeah. And enter a very common phrase. And that is, we will gladly stick with the devil we know over the devil we don't. And that's exactly the concept that I'm talking about right there. The pain that I'm experiencing, the devil. Right? We name it the devil, which is to say we know it. It's the devil we know. So we already know that it's fucking shit. Is better, rather the devil I know than the devil I don't. So here's what's going on in that statement, and I want you to really connect to this. The devil I know, which means I know it, I've already identified it, it is the devil. It's fucking shit. It's not working for me. It's not serving me. It's costing me. It's breaking me down. It's pulling me into a dark, unpleasant place, rather than the devil I don't know. So it's not, we say it's the devil I don't know, and we build it up to be a bigger devil, but we don't know that. So actually, we don't know that it's the devil. We think, we have an idea, a perception that it might be a bigger devil because it's the unknown. And gentlemen, if you are afraid of the unknown, it is time to fucking step into it. But not in the deep end. Start with one step. Do something that takes you into discomfort and become more competent at doing challenging things. That could be anything. But it's the devil I don't know. And you don't know that it's the devil. And I'm here to tell you, most of the time, it fucking ain't the devil. There's work involved. There's the letting go of what keeps me at this level. And then the growing into something new. Growth has pain, right? Growing pains. There's pain involved in growth. But when we connect to why grow, and we can see what's on the other side of it and the purpose and the meaning in growth, then that work has purpose, right? The juice is worth the squeeze. I'm willing to do the work, the squeezing, in order to achieve, create, experience the juice. And so we can actually start to change that and go, this is the devil I know. Do I want to keep experiencing this? What are the consequences for this devil I know in my life? Am I willing to keep paying those prices? If no, then why am I stuck here? Do I think that the devil I don't know will be some giant devil? Can I get a different take on that? Can I dissipate and decrease the size of what I think the work is going to be. That's where we need to start exploring. So here's something to start questioning. Okay, so why do we do this? Right? Well, because change can be challenging. It asks us to let go of some shit that, while it might be the devil I know, it's familiar. And so, you know what, even though this is shit house and I've got that pain in my back or this thing in my relationship or that thing in my work, my friendships, whatever, it's familiar. And there's something that seems safe about familiarity. But I want to be clear here. It can seem safe, right? Because it's not asking us to grow. It's like a warm blanket. But that blanket's covered in shit, bro. What do you keep? It's familiar, but it's covered in shit. Stop cuddling yourself into that blanket. So why else do we build it up? What work and change might be, and suffer through what is? Well, here's something that's very true for a lot of men. We have learnt through our lives and then consistently through culture and everything that we hear, that the idea of needing help says something about me. It says that I'm not capable, that I'm incapable, and fundamentally it often says something, or at least we make it mean this, which is important, that something is wrong with me. And a simple connection is, if I admit to myself, and therefore perhaps to others, that I need to change and that I might need help, well, that's telling me that I'm incapable and there's something wrong with me. That's an identity piece that I'm not willing to explore, and so we won't. So we'll keep building up the devil I don't know, and we'll keep justifying why the devil I know is acceptable. And what we'll often do is prove a point, a deeper point that we might have been holding on to, harboring, fearing, running our lives based around, which is that for some time, which is something around my worthiness. If something is wrong with me, if I admit to needing to change, maybe needing some help, to doing some work, that means that I'm incapable. That means there's something wrong with me. And that means that my deep fear that I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve growth, love, adventure, whatever the fuck that I really, really want, even knowing that, then I won't do it. Right? It will prove that point. And it's weird. That's not an amazing thing to experience, but I will go through my life looking for evidence to prove those points. And so I will avoid that. Taking a step, doing some work on myself, seeking some support, even saying to someone, I'm struggling, because I carry so much in that. I'm incapable, something wrong with me, I'm not good enough. And so we'll go about our lives convincing ourselves that it's not that bad. You know what, I can handle this. And maybe you can, right? We might even think, you know what, there's kudos. Kudos? Trying to do that for my American listeners. There's kudos for suffering through it. Like we think that there's some fucking medal at the end of life for the guy that suffered the most and didn't do something about it, or suffered in silence the most and didn't do anything about it. There just fucking isn't a prize at the end of life for the guy who suffered the most, or suffered in silence the most. And so in that, we often, the extension idea of there's something wrong with you, you're weak, you're incapable if you do something about it, is you need to be able to do this alone. You need to be unfazed by everything in life. You should know all the answers to everything. You should be able to handle everything yourself. You should be this kind of ever-capable superhuman. And so we think we have to do it all alone, which is fucking insanity. Like, how could we? I can't do everything alone. I need to have coaches, mentors, brothers, men around me who support me, who can hear me and listen to me and encourage me and celebrate me and be honest with me and call me into integrity and call me forward into honesty and who I'm capable of being, who can educate me on things that I don't currently know. Because how the fuck could you know everything? What a wildly insane expectation to place on yourself, or to have placed on us and then to take on board ourselves. But that's what we'll do. The idea of being weak, meaning something about me, i.e. that I'm weak, right? I have a weakness, something that I need to work on. I have a pain, something that needs work. If we make that mean that I am weak, no, we all have weaknesses. That doesn't mean you are weak. But if we make that mean that, that I'm less than, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not man enough, then that will stop me doing anything about it. And so what happens is I need what's wrong, whatever is wrong, to be at a bad enough point that it's okay that I can do something about it, right? So we get to this point, this is this kind of rock bottom point where the size of the shit is big enough that all of a sudden it magically warrants doing something about it, right? Like, surely now I can't be seen as weak if I do something, if I ask for help, if I admit to needing support, or that something has to change, right? And enter that kind of rock bottom point, which isn't necessarily some giant living under a bridge rock bottom that I mentioned before, but some version of it. And what we do in that process is we fuck ourselves, because now the work to overcome is greater. It actually is greater because I've delayed it and delayed it and delayed it and delayed it so much that I'm further away from change, from getting out of pain and then change and growth and what's possible for me. And this often plays into a story or identity that we have, which is, that life has to be hard for me. I never get it easy. Nothing ever goes, right for me. I have to be a fighter. You gotta work and sweat hard for everything. All this kind of really like woe is me shit, which again, I have compassion for. And it often speaks to this fundamental belief system that we might have about ourselves and our worthiness and what we deserve and so on. So we'll play into that. But at this point, we have to face the devil we don't know. We have to face that. But as I said before, it becomes infinitely harder because we made it harder because of the delay, because how far we let it go. Not because it is actually some unclimbable mountain that we've maybe built it up in our mind to be until that point, right? But think about this. The more you sweep under the rug, the bigger the mess under there. The more you sweep under the rug, the bigger the mess. The bigger the trip will be when you eventually trip on it, because you will inevitably trip on that rug, and therefore the more you eventually have to clean up. And that's really what's often going on. The longer we leave it, the longer we leave it. And so it can often seem easier not to deal with it. But of course, you have to. If you don't, then others will be ending up cleaning it up for you. And we often think in not dealing with stuff, we're not burdening people, we're saving them from pain and discomfort, from drama, we're not unloading our emotions on them, all this kind of shit that we often think that we might be doing if we just get some support. Remember, people in your life are waiting to support you, as a reminder, just like you like supporting and helping others. But we often think that we're saving them from pain, discomfort, drama, burden, all this kind of stuff. But all we do is we make it for them. We make it for them by never facing and owning our own, right? Because until you trip on your rug, other people are. And this also brings us into this kind of mode of being, as I said before, where if you have a belief or an identity about yourself that brings you to that place, right? Life has to be hard. I'm a fighter. I have to suffer. I have to work and fight to deserve better, to be worthy of different. Then that's going to massively cockblock any of this stuff happening. And so we don't and won't do anything until it seems that bad that something has to change, and that therefore it can't mean as much about me being incapable or weak or something wrong with me, because it's just that big that who could handle and address this, right? And so it justifies it's okay, it's more okay for me to do something about it. And a big part of this is speaking to this big fear that we have that we will be judged, and therefore this big mode of being really that says other people and how they see me determine how I feel about myself. Other people are in charge of how I feel about myself and therefore what I do with my life. Because if the big block, or one of the big blocks preventing you from doing something, is that you fear you'll be seen as weak, less than, not capable, incapable, something wrong with you, kind of stuff, you're putting your life, your sense of well-being and peace in the hands of others. There is no ultimate judge of if you choose to work on yourself or grow or seek support. Now, you might be in a religion where you think that there is an ultimate judge, but that's a whole fucking different topic. But in terms of in the reality of life, what you can touch and feel, there's no one going to judge you for doing something. Or at least there is no one that should fucking matter and get a say in your life that is going to judge you for choosing growth, for choosing to no longer accept the pain, discomfort, all that shit, the devil you know, and wanting something else. Some people might judge you, but they're proving in that moment that they don't get to have a say or have a seat at your table. And I will put it to you, gentlemen, brother, that has to be one of the first things that you've got to let go of. Needing people to see you in a certain way. Let go of that. Needing people to see you in a certain way or not see you in a certain way, which is the same thing essentially. And actually start choosing to be a certain way that you can respect, that you can be proud of. Start small, right? Climbing the mountain in one giant leap gets you fucking nowhere. Left foot, right foot, step after step. You're climbing a mountain. What do you need? Possibly a Sherpa, someone to carry some of the baggage, or at least lighten the load that we are taking up the mountain. Here's a common experience for a lot of guys. I need to burden myself with all this shit, based on some of that stuff that we've already discussed, and also because I don't want other people to see it. But why all the shit that you don't process in your life, it's like carrying around a backpack, and then you go trying to climb the mountain of life. Let go of that baggage. Why are you taking it up the mountain? Here's a very common experience for guys that come and work with me in the Everyday Legends Academy. Many things, but this one at some point early on, which is like, I feel lighter. Yeah, because we take off all that baggage that you've been carrying around. And it's not as though someone else, I don't carry it for them, but I support them, and we, the coaches, support him in letting go of what he doesn't need to carry around, making sense of, dissipating the power of, and so he can feel lighter. And so he can climb the mountain more effectively. But also, if you're climbing a new mountain that you haven't climbed before, you probably need a guide. You need a team, right? When you get to a really hard part, having other people who are going with you. Like, hey, come with me, or grab my hand, or let's sit down and chat and make sense of this and bring some joy and some purpose, right? And some enjoyment to the journey. On with the analogy. So here's a few things I want to leave you with today on this episode. Some things to start exploring and asking yourself. And that is this. Because fundamentally, what I want to invite you into is this. We do not have to hit some kind of rock bottom. We do not have to get to a point where things finally have to change. Either a realization in yourself or promoted from someone else. The amount of men that come into my work who have essentially come via their partner saying something's got to change, or I really want you to do this work. You got to, go meet, talk to Mike, etc. Great, but you don't need it to get to that point. Don't wait until she leaves or says things are bad enough to do something. Do something now. So here's a simple first question. What can be better today? What can be better today? Every day you can ask yourself that question. What could be better today? How could I show up differently today? How could I show up more effectively today? How could I show up more powerfully today? How could I show up with more honesty, more integrity, more compassion today? And then, how can I step into growth today? How can I step into growth today? So what that's inviting you to do is at the start of the day, most likely, sit down for 2, 5, 10 minutes and explore that. But also, when you hit limitations, know that there's a bunch of shit you can't see. And so having people in your corner who can support you in seeing that and inviting you into it is like, it's the cheat level. I don't know why guys wouldn't do it. What can be better today? How can I be better today? How can I step into growth today? And then the next point is this. How do I want to act towards myself? How do I want to act towards myself? And there's this line, I think it is from Jordan Peterson, where he says something along the lines of, act towards yourself, I think it is. Act towards yourself as if you are someone you are responsible for. And so I think it's such a clever statement, because what it's inviting you to do is look at how much energy we often put into people that we're responsible for. Or perhaps, in a relationship, people we care about, our children. And maybe it is people who work for us, things like this, right? And we really put a lot of energy and respect and consideration into that. And guess what? You are responsible for you. Act accordingly. So the simple question is, how do I want to act towards myself? And here's something that's central to a lot of this, and that is self-respect. Have respect enough for yourself to not suffer in the shit that you don't need to, and to step into growth without things needing to be some version of rock bottom. That could be waking up covered in piss and shit and vomit under a bridge, but probably nothing like that for you. And maybe actually ask yourself, what would be rock bottom for me? Do I want that? What can I do today that takes me forwards? Not just away from that, but forwards. All right? Which is also inviting you to ask, what do you want for yourself? There's a whole different topic, but what do you want for yourself? Not what do you want to avoid or no longer experience, which is powerful to connect to, but at some point we need to know, what do I want to experience? What do I want for myself? And then here is a very important question. So if you are driving, stop. If you are walking, stop. Write this shit down. Can I be okay with being a man who doesn't have all the answers, who isn't superhuman and capable of everything, and might not know everything or have the answers to everything that challenges me? Can I be okay being that man? Because if you yet to this point cannot be okay with that, you'll never start, and you've made a prison for yourself that you'll never get out of. The first thing is accepting that I might be a fallible human, and that's okay. Then ask this: can I allow myself to be supported? Can I allow myself to deserve better and to be supported? Can I allow myself to deserve better and be supported? And then the next one, can I allow myself to be seen by others so that they can be in my corner, support me, and call me forward into who I am capable of being? Can I allow myself to be seen by others so that they can be in my corner? They can see the shit that I can't see, that they can support me, they can celebrate me, they can call me forward into who I'm capable of being, even in those moments where I can't see it. They can say, I see who you are capable of and what is possible for you, and I'm going to keep inviting you and challenging you into that. Can you allow that for yourself? You know, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have all the answers, period. And for those things that challenge you, that you are experiencing, that are frustrating, all that shit. But you've got to at least allow yourself to start. Can you allow yourself to start? If yes, then fucking start. You can. You are capable. Not of the mountain right now, but we become capable of climbing the mountain by climbing the mountain. It's who you become in the process. So right now, you don't need to be able to peak the mountain. You need to be able to start. So fucking start. And if you don't have the tools, the insight, the perspective, the structure, the time, the resources, then find people who can support you in that. Stop beating yourself against a wall, beating your head against a wall, and start. Find the people. It's simple. It can be that simple. And so really I want to reiterate that. In this, you will need support. Others' eyes, ears, experiences, perspectives, accountability. Like leaning on the accountability of others is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of humility. It says, this is what I want to do. This is what I think I'm capable of. This is a stretch. I'm going to enroll people to support me who are also going to, in part, carry my commitments to myself. Because I'm often my own worst enemy in following through on those things, because I can justify because look what I've done in my past. I've justified that the devil I know is acceptable. It's the fucking devil, bro. The lone wolf, at best, fights to survive. At worst, he dies. The pack thrives. That's where life is. That could be me and my team, my community, someone's. So if you want, ask me how me and my academy and my community of dudes just like you, how we explore this without needing some certificate for having the most or worst suffering and some kind of rock bottom. You do not need to be at rock bottom or your version of it to warrant or deserve to move forward. You get to experience better, you get to move forward, and you get to be supported. All right, that's our show. take action on this shit. Let me know what you got from this episode, your main takeaway, and what you are going to take action on. And then when you have, circle back to me and say, Mike, this is what I took action on. I fucking love hearing that stuff. I want you to take this stuff and put it into action. Listening to this and moving on to the next podcast, that's not the work. It's not just about consumption, it's about creation. What are you going to do with this? So here is my first invitation, that previous one. Reach out to me. What are you taking away from this? What are you going to take action on? And then let me know what you did take action on once you have. The second one is share this with someone. Give this to a man that you think could do with no longer wallowing in this fucking masturbatory place of it needs to be rock bottom before I do something about it. Fucking doesn't, bro. And then if you like the cut of my jib, being somewhat challenging in this episode, subscribe, hit download. Please leave us a review, especially on Apple. It makes it so much more powerful in getting this podcast in front of more men who need it and could use it. All right? That's our show. See you soon. You've been listening to the Everyday Legends podcast, the show that is dedicated to championing everyday men and supporting you in getting more from life, love, and the everyday. If this podcast has benefited you, if you enjoyed this, then my request, my invitation is to share this with a man that you think will also benefit from this and enjoy this. Remember, please, wherever you find your podcast, you like us, subscribe to us, click download first, leave us a review. All those things both make sure you get all the updates when they come in, and it supports us in getting this podcast in front of more everyday men that could use it. Until next time, I've been Mike Campbell. Remember to build that legendary integrity. And remember, everyday men, we thrive when we are championed, when we are supported, when we are appreciated and recognized for who we choose to be in the world. Here is my invitation to both show up and be that everyday legend, and to continue to champion the everyday men in your life.